Hello,
Hey,
gentlemen.
how we doing?
Fucking brilliant, mate. It's the eve of the World Cup. How are you?
I'm ready to go.
What's that shirt you got on?
Oh, this little guy here? This Sounders alternate kit from I want to say 2011. DJS, you got no audio, bro.
I know. I just muted myself. How are we? It's
There we go,
Christmas Eve, boys.
Well,
Got my mug.
should we kick this off with a little shot? Maybe a toast.
Oh, that sounds very soccer.
You guys into that one?
Yeah, I got one laying around. I figured this
I might have a little shot right here. A little bourbon. Is that?
I
is that
didn't know any
so
better. I'd say
support?
that's Hooker's House, age 7 years bourbon right there.
You got it from work.
All right, lads.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Oh yes. Now we're
All right.
talking.
Let's get to it. Let's hear a little bit of your guys' soccer background so we know where we're coming from. I'll start. I don't have any. Lived in Seattle for several years. Went to a lot of Sounders matches. I don't really know shit, but I love it.
What do you love about it?
Well, I love that there's constant action, especially when you're going to like a live game. You can kind of predict when it's going to get over, which is nice.
Yeah.
The Sounders matches, especially for like going to Major League Soccer compared to any other games I've been to in America, are really lively. It's a good time. I went to Beckham's first game when he was on loan to Milan when I was in Italy, and then I went to a Panathinaikos match in Athens. I love the energy of any sport that brings that kind of energy, and soccer fucking brings it.
And then DJS, let's talk about that shirt hanging above you right there. What is it?
Well, I've got the England here. I've got Beck's up top. I really had no choice getting into soccer. My parents, my family, everyone's from England. We're a big Evertonian household, so it's been a rough 18 months, and I'm hoping England can sort of, give me some light at the end of the tunnel here. But yeah, I mean, I've played since I was 4 or 5 years old, the whole 9 all-star club teams all the way up through college. And I mean, I wake up 4:30 on the West Coast every week. So when I say this is my Christmas Eve, I'm really not playing. We've got some bets picked out. We've got some good recaps for you guys. I hope you guys will enjoy.
Of course, you're known in the Knights feed as the betting alpha for soccer. So
yeah, we've been hot. We've been hot.
Yeah, you had a good.
And then for me, of course, DJS is representing England because he knows how much I love it. Of course, the flag on my shoulder. That one came from the Euros in France. I was there with some friends. We took in the England-Wales game, took in England-Slovakia, which was arguably the worst game I've ever paid over $200 to get a ticket for. And then counting in, going on the other side, I have my tickets from the World Cup in Russia, which, that infamous day in 2010 when they announced Russia was winning the World Cup to host in 2018 was like, okay, well, that's kind of shady, but whatever. And then it was like, drum roll, please, hold my beer. Let's get it worse. And now here we are talking about Qatar, which, Jungle, I know you have some stuff to say about it, and I can't wait to hear it. And I think we all have our own opinions on this too. But let's jump into Group A, shall we, and get this rolling.
Start at the top.
All right.
I'm just going to start off. I'm really sad seeing Group A here. I had about 10 plus units on Senegal. Over 3.5 points. Obviously, Mane's out. I look at this group and I still don't see a way where they don't. I mean, you have Qatar, you have the home country, of course. Ecuador is, a bit sneaky, and we'll talk about them in a bit. But I mean, the Dutch on paper, easily the strongest team. Senegal, you have that Prem, Koulibaly, Mendy, Idrissa Gana Gueye, our Everton lad. So I think you have the pieces there. I don't think I'm going to be riding them as hard. Senegal has to advance for me, I think is sort of where my head immediately falls here. I know that the Mane news is big, but
yeah, you look at November 29th. That's the game between Senegal and Ecuador. It's probably the decider of the group, because you're right. We all want Louis van Gaal's army to go through, and we want them pursuing as far as we can just to see him. Is probably the last time that we'll see him coaching. So I think I agree with you. It's a write-off. And I think in my notes here, I've got how deep are the Qatari pockets to pay off. You talk about the news with them assumingly paying off the Ecuadorians for a nice, strong opening game win.
Through active FIFA investigations, 8 individual Ecuadorian players came out and said that they received a very similar bribe to lose the game in very similar circumstances. So
I saw this on Twitter like a couple days ago.
Fucking Sunday.
Like, is there anything behind this?
I mean, they opened 2 official investigations. I don't know. It's, the whole thing's shady. They got the bid. I feel like it's a little shady. Everything's a little shady, right? So I don't know. And FIFA's shady anyways. So you throw in shady on shady, you got shady squared. Who fucking knows what's going on?
Yeah.
So DJS, you like the Dutch for the quarterfinals?
I think Dutch will win the league. Or the group, excuse me.
Yeah.
I have the Netherlands actually stage of elimination as a prop bet to make the quarters and get knocked out in the quarters. That's at plus 240. I like that line. I think I'm looking at a few brackets.
It's so specific.
And it is. I guess here's the reasoning. I think they win the group, right? I think that's. So I actually think I had in a few bets, I had a few cheeky things with Senegal. I had, finishing top dog here. But then you look at Group B, who we'll get into in a second here, they're going to go up against. You have like England, Wales, USA, Iran, and they're going to play the second place team if they do actually win the group. Little contentious, I know, being we are in the States. I was born here. I still do like the USA, for everyone wondering. But I'm leaning Wales a little bit in that group at the moment. I think it's a shame that they play so early on, but I think they win that game as well. I think the Netherlands beats the USA. I think they beat Wales. Iran is a dark horse. I don't mean any disrespect by sort of skipping over them there. But then you get to Argentina, if all goes well in the quarters, and I have Argentina sort of streamroll into the semis, which we can also dive into. That's the thinking behind it. I like Argentina a lot. I have again, bets. It's tough to allude to things being in the first group here, but that's the reasoning behind the quarterfinal elimination. Plus 240, I think is good value. I would probably take this around plus 150. So,
okay.
Make of it what you will.
Yeah, you kind of jumping through the groups, but it makes so much sense, right? The Dutch are clearly the strongest there. They look like they can come in and perform in a way that we kind of missed recently. And I think that they have so much potential. And in a group like this, so there are some common themes here, which are the South Americans with a lot of potential to perform in the environment. It's going to be hot. It's coming from a climate, from an environment that they're going to be somewhat familiar with. Of course, they have a bunch of European-based players too, but then look at the European teams and the expectation that they may falter early on. Then you look at the African teams, and unless you're Samuel Eto'o and believe that they're going to make it all the way to the final, it's going to be a Morocco and Cameroon final, which we'll talk about here in a little while as well. But now you're looking at, like you said, unknowns around Iran, like Qatar. So there's kind of this common story running throughout the entire group stage that, Netherlands has got to finish top here. We've got to look at Ecuador probably pushing through too as a second spot. That'll be a good game between Netherlands and Senegal, between Netherlands and Ecuador. Sorry, because I just think that could be a determinant, as you said, for the next stage, which is now, if we jiggle, let's jump into Group B, because now we look at.
Let me jump in real quick. So DJS, on your Netherlands quarterfinals, do you think they're going to handle the group, right?
I think they do, and I think again, let's say pre-Mane injury, I was a little bit more skeptical. I think, you look at their back line, you've got Virgin, he's missed a few tournaments with injuries and whatnot. All the way through, you've got Frankie in the middle, either side of Verge, in their 5-back. Denzel Dumfries is, one of the better attacking fullbacks in Europe. On the right, Frankie, and then Depay, Berge. There's a lot of quality over the pitch. You look at someone like Senegal, I think, who's lacks depth, and that's very abundant when someone like Mane goes down. They have that core we talked to, maybe, through the spine of the team.
Would there be more value in betting like a tie or better for every Netherlands match and just rolling those units over through the quarterfinals? Do you think you'd end up with better than plus 240 throughout those games?
Potentially. I think they could be, like a minus 300. And then the little caveat I'll say with this too is, let's say they go ahead and the Dutch win their first 2 games, right? They're locked in.
They might. Yeah, you're right.
At that point in time, that third game in a World Cup, like there's always over/under points bets. And as I said, I was all over Senegal over 3.5 group stage points. I didn't see them really locking it up prior to that third game. It gets a little testy. And so I think with there are some groups where you can find an advantage on the lines where it might be, X team to qualify from the group versus X team over, however many said points. I think this is an instance where I probably will still place on Senegal over 3.5. I think they beat Qatar. I think it benefits them. They don't play them that first game with the opening ceremony. Emotions will be high. And then I think they get a point against the Dutch. Ecuador as well. I think Ecuador's, chicken. We got nuggets here, but I think
emotions won't be that high from the opening. Emotions won't be that high from the opening ceremony since they, just flipped the script and said no alcohol a day before 2 days before the World Cup with no warning. Just,
I can't wait to see the conversation, hear about the conversation between FIFA and Budweiser on that one.
Oh yeah. 30 million a year they pay.
That's tough. What are Brits going to do?
Yeah, let's get into what everyone cares about here, which is how far England are going to go. Of course, my argument for this England team is the potential to get stale under Southgate. Is that everyone shut up, Hamid? Yes, Jigga. So the issue we have is the expectation, of course, is that England should walk this group, much like we expect the Dutch to do that in Group A, which means they avoid each other, of course, in the round of 16. But then England are playing, fortunately, Iran first. A game against Iran first gives us perhaps a stronger foothold. We can break them down. We can kind of let the shackles off a little bit and go forward. Because if we played either the USA or Wales first, which are arguably kind of grudge matches, the efficiency of derbies on the international level, so we kind of get a free hit, if you like, in the first round, which means the USA Wales on Monday at 11 o'clock is a big game. DJS, where do you sit on that one? Metaverse King, USA.
This one's tough, and I was chatting with Meta last night. So how we doing, Meta? So
you guys are not the same person.
No, we actually. I mean, it's a different story, but we got into things same time. We split like a wallet and whatnot, but.
Okay, that's what I kind of thought. I was just telling Chicken.
We've got that a lot. Yeah, there are two of us that show up to March Madness Vegas events for the nights.
I'll say I've never seen you two in the same room. So,
but again, like this one, I think is England has too much quality on paper. You look at their last two tournaments. Yes, they've had an easy run in Russia, getting to that semis, heartbreak. You score in the first 5 minutes. Trippier, that free kick. One of the more iconic, I think, England World Cup goals. And then you lose, I think it was like 110th minute. I just think they're too good. I think they're too good. I actually have another bet here. USA stage elimination last 16. My heart says USA will get through. My head says Wales. This might be a bit of a, I'm coming on to the night show. I have to have something with USA. But I think if they get out the group, again, coin flip, I'm going to be taking draw in that Wales-USA game, first game. The Dutch are just, they're good. And it's.
So I have a good friend who's listening right now.
I'm going to bite my tongue on this one. I don't want to say much on the USA because I know I'm going to get some DMs like, get off the show. But.
So a good friend of mine is listening right now. He's a Welsh guy. And so, of course, heavily biased is he knows what he is, and he's listening, and he'll know what that means. And I'll tell you guys maybe on another side note one day. But the Welsh have players now playing in the Premier League in more ways than they have done before. So, Giggsy isn't there anymore, so we don't have to worry about if he shows up or not. But the quality of players that are in there, we have the issue around Bale. Bale walks into the cup final for LAFC, just strolls on the field, and then suddenly, he's playing limited minutes. Is he going to be able to be his old self for Wales? We know he performs well for the Welsh national team. He famously said, it's Wales and then it's golf. Like he knows he has his priorities in place. He is all about the Welsh national team. So he's going to show up, and if he shows up and plays the way that we think he will, I think that's a Wales win over the US. The US has a young squad. They have young talent that are coming through that are also playing in the Premier League too. But there is the potential for this to be, and to use an old kind of English adage, is that it's like a leapfrog. We'll use this to build for the next tournament. And unfortunately, England have used that far too often. And I would hate for the US to try and use it in that way. But look at some of the young kids like Brendan Aronson and Tyler Adams that are playing and have the potential to jump up, and now playing in Europe as well. There's a lot to be excited about for this US team, and also for the Welsh team. And that's a concern for me as an England fan, that the more I speak and the more I read about the Welsh team, the more I read about the USA team, and then also the unknown about Iran with everything that's going on in their country. And also there's now the discussion that the Iranians are not going to sing their national anthem in their opening game. Like there's so much loaded into this group that is there, that there's so much threat to, for me as an England fan, that we got to beat Iran opening game and then we move on from there. And I just think England, USA, Black Friday is the game for me out of this entire group. I think this is it. That's Christmas morning. If tomorrow morning isn't Christmas morning because it's just Qatar and Ecuador playing, I'm okay with that, because Black Friday becomes suddenly Christmas morning for me.
I'm in Vegas for that game, so I hope the public is shifting the lines towards the US, and I'll get a cheeky little England bet. But I think you touched on a few good things there. I think Americans are, and again, tongue in cheek here, but I think Americans are underappreciating what Bale has done for Wales at the biggest stage for so long. You know, he's been in a Real Madrid team.
Big, and that's why we're here to answer these questions for you.
Yeah, ask away, Big, and tell us all about it.
Ask them all, because I also don't know anything about soccer. I'm here learning.
I think just touching on this though, I think Bale knew he was coming to LA. I think he was like, look, let's find a domestic season where it'll run through the World Cup. The MLS was exactly that. Ended, 2 weeks ago. I think he knew, well and truly from the day he signed, it was, I'm going to have practice. I'm going to play 2 days, sit one out. I'm going to be recovered. I'm going to have days on the golf course. The ultimate goal for, I think, Gareth Bale coming to LAFC was nothing more than be fit, be sharp for the World Cup. I don't think it was, let's go win an MLS Cup. I don't think, I think some players come here with the intention of doing so. And yes, he comes on, he scores a massive goal. I think knowing Bale and knowing how passionate he is for Wales, the goals he scored, willing them through, qualifying them, I just, Bale is here with one goal in mind, and that is to absolutely run this group. And, you touch on the Wales-England rivalry, you touch on the England-US rivalry. Iran may be able to sneak through with all the emotion tied up in the other games. So we'll see.
That's it, right? You look at the potential for them whilst there's all of these rivals going on. There's a chance.
I've been doing a lot of technical analysis on the USA Wales matchup, and mostly I just think, I believe that we will win.
Do not ever sing that again.
Junglegoat, how do you want the US to line up? I've seen a few different things. How do you fit Gio, Pulley, and in my opinion, Brendan Aronson being the best of the rest? How do you fit them into a front three? I saw a clip yesterday of Landon wanting to run Pulley as a false nine. I think if he's not out wide, you lose sort of his, direct ability on the counter, taking on a one-on-one right back. I think he loses some of that. But Gio coming back, he's the untalked. I mean, he could well and truly be the better player of the two between him and Pulley as well. How do you see that front three shaking up?
Solid.
Yeah, we know. The problem is with Pulisic, there's such an expectation on him. There's such, you've seen the commercials,
Captain America.
Right? Yeah, there's so much on him to perform. He's the first player that started really, really making it in Europe. He's the big signature, gets that big deal with Chelsea. And then I think, unfortunately, to be fair to him, there's a lot of snobbery around English football, around the game, with how Americans fit into that. And I think that's where he fell foul a little bit with Lampard. And so you look at there's so much expectation on him to perform and to carry for the US because he has been that pioneer, really the most modern pioneer. And I think he can't not play. And we'll talk about this similarly with Portugal here shortly, but he has to play. He has to be crowbarred in somehow, and the players will probably sit around him simply for that reason.
So then closing off this group, where do you guys see the teams falling? Who qualifies? Who gets where?
I got US and England moving on.
I'm going to go England and Wales.
I'm going to go England, Wales.
Oh,
okay. I'm going to go England. I'm going to go England lose to Brazil in the final. I think they beat France in that much anticipated, highly anticipated quarterfinal game. Probably a homer pick. Call it what you want. I have England losing in the final. Wales losing to the Dutch. Although that Wales,
England to the final.
Southgate, he gets it done in tournaments. They're hard to beat. They're hard to.
Maybe they'll go to a shootout and bring in a bunch of kids who haven't played all day.
Actually, this is a Rashford kit. It's a Rashford kit, so
football's
easy.
Coming home again.
You know what? I'm gonna take it back. I took USA going to the 16. I'll take the USA.
I mean,
I just
Wales is
someone said this earlier.
Scrubs,
I'm gonna allude to what this. I mean, Brennan Aronson is good. Daniel James came through at Swansea, got a move to United for I don't know, maybe
you cannot
15, 20
understand a word a Welshman says.
Yeah,
and for me, that's a deal breaker.
I think I just look at the USA team and I think one, average age, two, experience. You know, they have Weston McKennie's played for the Juventus team, I think, in and out of the team for the last 2 years. Pulley, Dortmund, gets a $50 million move to Chelsea. You know, he's been in and out of the team. Not a lot of their guys, you know, if I think on face value, you look at their roster and who they play for, it's like, oh, England, Leeds, you know, Chelsea, XYZ clubs. But I think, you know, who's really making substantial minutes and who's getting in and who's playing in. I think Weston's probably the biggest one, and he's sort of your midfielder that really does it all for the U.S. And I think with the U.S. coming, or the World Cup coming to the U.S., in 2026, that's the big one. I think this is sort of get the gears moving, get their mouths wet, and then boom, you know.
So that's what I mean about it being like a stepping stone World Cup, an experience with one of the youngest squads in the World Cup, the potential to get the experience to play in what is a tough group. And that maybe the mentality is perhaps we get a result. Perhaps we can beat Wales. We should all beat Iran. But this is the only group in the World Cup with with all four teams ranked in the top 20 of the FIFA rankings for whatever that's worth. But this is the kind of group of death on paper. And the more you go into it, it's harder for every team anyway. But it just, I don't know, that there's so much potential for this group to shake out in a wild way. And if it does, I quit. I'm out. I'm done.
I wish there wasn't I think expectations in the U.S. are a bit high at the moment. You know, I don't think it's the easiest group. Obviously, England, you'd expect to take the top spot. But you have just in the media, people coming out and saying, oh, like Pulisic, LeBron. It's just like, why do it? You know, you have a young team. Let them go there without any expectations. Let Bale as the 32-year-old who's won 4 champions, 5 champions, however many Champions Leagues he has, you know, let them take the pressure. So I don't think they've done themselves any favor. England know that all too well with
he's 31, he's practically
their
dead.
Juggernauts, but
he should be coaching.
Yeah.
Now, my favorite player on the men's team is DeAndre Yedlin. Big fan. Been watching him play pretty much the whole time I've ever been watching soccer. Love the guy.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say.
Yedlin's another one, though. He made that move. You know, he made that move into Europe. He played for Newcastle, and again, it's another one that if you watch the Premier League, you listen to the commentary, and it's the American Yedlin. They don't talk about, you know, the Polish Lewandowski. They don't talk about the Argentinian Messi. They talk about the American player, and I just think it's so interesting the way the Americans are perceived in England, and it makes a lot of sense why they would rather go to Germany. Like you look at or go to Italy. Like, you look at how strong the Americans have gone when they've gone there. Like you say about Pulisic, getting his feet and finding his way forward with Dortmund was huge. It made such a difference to him. And you could argue that going to the Premier League has probably killed him in some ways, that as an American fan, you probably don't want to see that. You don't want that to happen.
Let's jump in on this question we got here. Jiggy, I'm putting on the screen. So Big N, we got 8 groups in the World Cup. There's 4 teams per group. Every team plays every team per group. In each group, the team with the most points, the top 2 teams with the most points advance to the round of 16. So we know who's playing. We know when they're playing for the group stage. And then we know what seeds, the 1 seed from A will play the 2 seed from what?
B.
There you have it.
And then it gets kind of convoluted as you go through. But all you need to know is that after Sunday, for the next 11 days, there are 4 games a day. If you're unfortunate, like we are, being on the West Coast, the first game start at 2 a.m. and then they go 5 a.m. Then they go at 8 a.m., 11 a.m. So you're on the East Coast, you got a little bit of a nicer time frame. But
lads, I'm seeing, by the way, just because we're on the World Cup, I'm seeing Benzema might have picked up an injury in training.
He was kind of in doubt too anyway, right?
I think he just got back to full. Yeah. Be a shame. Mid-season tournament. I mean, we're seeing a lot of this. Obviously, we already talked about Mane, but
DJS, let me ask you. A good friend of mine who's in the OR right now, listening in to our call. He can't log in. So he's basically trying to save someone's life as he's listening to our conversation. This is how important this is. But it probably turns out it's just a bunion or something that he's fixing. But he wants to know who plays behind Kane in the England front line. We'll talk about Brazil and their attacking flair in a minute, but
is it in my opinion, or is it Southgate? Because I think it's very different takes here. I'll do both. I'll give you mine and I'll give Southgate.
Go on.
So I think going into 18 and in the Euros 2021, the COVID move, I've always thought 4 in the back, I thought we could get away with it. But as I've seen, I don't know, this England team, I think you look at our defensive options. I think Stones is probably the only one I'd be comfortable with in the back. City, Pep, Champions League, Prem, quality. Chilwell's hurt. Reece James is hurt. Trippier is fit, but is always sort of like a sprint away from pulling up with his hammy. I just think the back 5, I've always been, Southgate, what are we doing? We have some of these young attacking, Jude, Foden, Mount, Rice, this young midfield. Calvin Phillips isn't even, then you get to the front 3, it's Kane, Sterling, whoever it is, you name it. But I think this is the tournament we have to go 5 at the back. I think we do. Maguire's been found out at the club level. And I think Maguire, just not to defend him, my friends always give me shit for defending Harry Maguire, but if you put him in a low block, he's, world class. There's a reason that Leicester is an $80 million player. I think it's where you have a team like United and Ten Hag who likes to play at the halfway line and press teams in their half, and you get found out, the ball's over the top, the Jamie Vardys of the world with pace, get in behind. So I think he needs to be covered by like a Kyle Walker. So I'm going to go 5 in the back. I'm going to say Jude and Rice in the middle.
That's a given.
And then I don't think we play anyone behind Kane. Yeah. I think it's got Sterling just off pure form for England over the last, 6 years. I think he's now like the most capped player for the team. I think he's got to get his left to right, wherever. And then it's got to be Foden. I think Foden's. I know Southgate loves Saka, and I know, Grealish has been starting the year well. It's got to be Foden for me. I think he's a generation.
I think Grealish is a bit part player. I don't think he is in a chance for starting. Yeah. But you look at Mount under Chelsea, he's played almost every minute for Chelsea, has been outstanding.
Mount, yeah.
Sterling is arguably one of the first names on the team sheet, but I don't know if he should be, especially right now. Chelsea's faltering.
It's one of the Southgate picks.
It's being covered by a guy like Maddison. Yeah. And so you get a guy like Southgate who says, I'm picking on form. And then suddenly we're finding ourselves playing the same players. And my concern is we play against Iran, and the theory is score early, we get ahead, and we can start playing a little bit freer and just enjoy ourselves. And then you look at the opposite side, which is Iran bunker in, and we can't get past them. and then suddenly we're now 60 minutes into a game and we're in fucking trouble. So then that's when
meltdown's a little more complicated, though. There's a lot going on there.
I mean, I think Southgate's proven that in a tournament, he's fine with going with 3 or 4 different setups over the course of your 7-8 games. So I think we will be fluid in some respect. I think if there's a game, that's the one Iran, you play 4 at the back. Looks like Walker won't be healthy, so you maybe go like Trippier on the left, Luke Shaw on the left, whoever it is. You line it up 4 at the back, and then you bring in front of the Jude Rice, or maybe even just let Rice sit as a 6. You give Jude more of that 8, and then you bring in a 10. Maybe it is the mount. I know Madison just got hurt. I've been yelling for Southgate to bring him into the team. I think he's got
Madison
the most
came
goal
through
moments
Coventry
in the
City in my team.
For top 3 behind KDB. There you go.
So then you look at also.
He also just, the right tore side. Everton apart a week or 2 ago.
If we play with 5 in the back, who plays the right side?
It would have been Reece for me. It would have been Reece. Absolutely.
You got to put Trent there.
I think he's.
If you play 3 in the back against a team like Iran, you got to.
If it's the 5,
give him the freedom.
If it's the 5, I think you go. Yeah, I think you go Trent just because he's. You've seen it for Liverpool countless times. Probably Walker inside of him to cover, I think, and then you let Trent almost operate like a Beck's role, sort of flying up, just whipping balls in. Kane's good in the air. Exactly. I don't think we have too many. Jude, I think, is like a late run into the box is. Proven he can grab a goal or 2 from midfield as well. So
if Jude's allowed to play freely the way that he does for Dortmund, and as you said, if we have a Rice that sits and allows Jude to play, I think that we can find our feet in that game against Iran, and then we can just grind it out and then start finding our way into the round of 16 and onwards. And I think that we have a very, very strong chance of going far. But that's the fan in me versus the pessimistic true Englishman that says, I don't fucking know.
One question. Foden, Pep historically doesn't like Foden defensively, right? He sort of tucks him out wide and lets him just do his thing.
Yeah.
Would you ever put him at the 10 for England? He's got to be the most technical player at his age that we've ever had come through, maybe since like Gaza, Rooney, but.
I would play him. The fact that he did his hair like Gaza for the Euros and he didn't play all that much is a bit of an insult, I think, but I would get him in where I can. I would play him over Grealish, very similar kind of flair players that will play underneath a solid player like Haaland. But I think that you find a way to play Foden, whether it's in that 10 role, whether it's wide, because then you play him wide with a creative player wide like Saka or a Sterling. Then you have the speed versus the creativity and the ability to flip the wings, to play inverted. There's so much potential for this England team to go forward. So now as we talk about it, now I'm all England again.
Yeah,
but before this, as I'm reading and listening, I'm like, I don't fucking know, man. I'm really not sure.
Harry Kane's too fucking old. And
a good friend of mine really dislikes Harry Kane.
It's not the English podcast. Group C, let's go.
All right.
And he celebrates when Harry Kane scores, but he doesn't like it. His head looks like a vagina.
It depends how I bet.
So, Messi. You've got to start with Messi here, huh?
It's all it is, right? This is the entire nation pushing for Messi, and then we'll talk about Ronaldo and Portugal and that disgrace shortly. But you look at the contrast of these two nations and the support and the cohesion that they have. I think. You start looking at Argentina probably on the books of many clubs or many fans to make it to the final or as close to the final as possible.
Yeah, 5, by the way.
I just looked at 35.
Yeah, again, I think it's easy in the group stage to sort of be comfortable with picking the top, number 1 seed, if you will, to win the group. But just keep in mind, you do play every team in the group. I think for someone like Spain in 2014 to get knocked down the group stage after winning 2 Euros and a World Cup on the trot of, probably the best or one of the best international teams of all time. That's rare. I think in a 1-game knockout, sure, the USA can beat Argentina, but with all 3 games being played, the favorite go through most times. I like Argentina for obvious reasons. I don't think we need against them too much. I can't wait on paper if that Argentina-Brazil rivalry, if they link up in the semis, will just be just popcorn on the couch.
Oh man, I was in Croatia for Yacht Week in 2014 when Germany played Brazil and just kicked the living shit out of them. We're like watching the game on a dock on the ocean in just this beautiful town in Croatia, and it was nuts. There's like one TV in this like beach town, and the whole city is standing around it, just going ham.
So this is what the World Cup can provide. It provides these memories that you're already on an amazing trip, and now you have the opportunity to watch a game that is so significant. That game was just so significant in so many ways, and you got to watch it, and now you tie in soccer and that experience, and that is what we talk shit about this World Cup in Qatar, and I think it's a disgrace, and I don't think it should have happened the way it's happening, given that the majority of people on the decision committee have now been found guilty of fraud or have been put in jail. Like, there's so much that has come out since, and even Sepp Blatter has said he hasn't admitted that he was bribed, even though it's all of that shit. But he's saying it shouldn't have been there. Now he's saying the country's too small, but like, we still have the opportunity to have this incredible experience, and that's where I, as a fan, am so torn. I went to Russia. I went to France for the Euros. I would have gone to this World Cup in a heartbeat, but Big Gun, Jigger, bring that comment up from Big Gun. That's brilliant. That's the World Cup.
Yes, that's the World Cup. Screenshot this.
Right. This is it. Like, we have Argentina. Now let's talk about Mexico. DJS, where are you at on Mexico? Because I would argue that Mexico has the same expectation that England has. Of course, here on the West Coast in California, I coach for a living. I do analysis. I'm involved in the game day in and day out. And the majority of players that I work with they're from Mexico. They're from Central America. They're from South America. We have a bunch of kids that are coming in and playing in from the typical white kids, I guess we could say. But like, the game is so mixed here, but the feeling and the fire that comes from the Mexican national team is very similar to what I experienced and still experience with the England national team too. So, like, we have Chucky Lozano. You look at the weight on his shoulders to perform for this team, and where do you see him shaking out?
I like Mexico to come out the group with Argentina. I think Poland, it's Lewandowski, right? That's the team in a nutshell. In the past, they've had players, I think it's tough. Saudi Arabia as well. But I think, let's talk about Mexico for a second here. Chuck Lozano, yes. I think Raul Jimenez is probably the one I'm most interested to see. He's done well for Mexico. He's really carried Wolves for, a few seasons now. I think they've scored the least, if not. What does that mean,
carried Wolves?
Wolverhampton. It's a team in the Premier League.
Oh.
He's a strong. He's played strong. He's played strong.
I thought it was some sort of soccer slang.
No, but I think Wolves have scored the fewest goals in the Prem this year. They are probably bottom 4 or 5 last year, if not, right at the bottom. So he's used to being in a team that's sort of, defensively sound. Yes. You look at Connor Cody now at Everton, a few of those guys Wolves have, they 5 at the back. So I think he's used to looking, and sniffing around the 18 for that half a chance, which he can go ahead and bury. And I think he ends up with, 12 to 16 goals a year in the Prem, give or take. Obviously, nasty injury last year. People feared his career was over. I think he's the one I'm more interested to see. And it's also difficult. You talk about Mexico. Ochoa has been Casillas every tournament. The World Cup comes around and he's keeper of it just feels like a Cinderella story. So, I think they, again, have players spread across the MLS. Sure. The Mexican League. Yes. But probably more so than Poland, players who are actually playing in, Atletico Madrid, Wolves, Napoli. So
yeah,
I think I'm leaning Mexico on this one.
So I think go on, Jungle, what you got?
Oh, my favorite thought about the Mexican national team is when they weren't going to make it in 2018 unless this crazy set of circumstances happened with like a tie with Costa Rica and a bunch of like CONCACAF shit. And Casey Keller was on ESPN. He's like, everyone's thinking it's a crying shame if Mexico doesn't make it. He's like, you know how many bags of human piss I've had thrown on me playing in Mexico? He's like, I hope they don't fucking make it. Which is just one of the best, like most candid highlights. He's like, I'm standing next to the fans. They're literally throwing human waste on me every time I play there. I'd prefer they didn't make it.
Also, CONCACAF is an interesting conversation in itself, given that if you ever watch the Champions League of CONCACAF, it's the Americans or the CONCACAF has CONCACAF itself, because you get random decisions from referees, you get all sorts of sometimes blatant favoritism towards stronger teams. So I don't know how many CONCACAF referees are here, and they certainly won't be refereeing the Mexico games. But I think that opening game on the 22nd, as you see on the screen, 11 a.m., 8 a.m. for us, is the Mexico-Poland game. I think that's the big one.
Who was that guy who was like he was like the FIFA rep for some island nation for one of the CONCACAF teams, and The Onion put out an article about his cheating, and he thought it was a real article, and he essentially like exposed himself for cheating. It's like, I don't know how they found out, but I'm not going down alone. Oh my God. I'll find it. Hold on.
That's definitely coming out after this World Cup too, for bribes and all sorts of stuff. Inevitably.
It's coming out now. I mean, you know, you've got all these like Ecuadorian accusations. I mean, okay, so.
And so I'm looking at the Poland team though, just to get some thoughts out here quickly. Matty Cash, I love Matty Cash, right back for Aston Villa. Zielinski, you know, obviously Napoli. Yep. Chesney, the Juve keeper. So, I mean, they have pieces. I worry about, again, similar to Senegal we talked earlier, one injury to their talisman, you know, Lewandowski, obviously, knock on wood, you don't assume those things are going to happen. But even, you know, just around the team, it's, you know, I think with teams like this, it's like you put 4 or 5 names down on the team sheet, maybe in January of this year, right? And it's like, okay, well, we're going to go to the World Cup. We know who our stars are. And then it's all about, let's see over, you know, the 6 months leading up to the tournament, who's going to, you know, maybe we have someone, a center back who's in form and is in January looking for a move to a top European club, or, you know, whatever the storylines are. And I think that's sort of a case with a team like, you know, Poland. I don't think there's too much consistency between the qualifying group and now. I looked through a few lineups and seems to be the case. I don't know much about too many of their players, but I think Mexico's great. It feels like every time they're in a World Cup, they're always getting out of the group. They're always sneaking in. They're always, you know, in the last 16, 1-1. And I feel like they've played Argentina maybe at like the 3 of the last 6 World Cups or so. If I'm not mistaken, it feels like that's always on the paper. So Mexico, I'm leaning. I don't really feel too strongly one way or the other with this. As far as any bets, I might have Martinez for Argentina as a sneaky dark horse for the Golden Boot. I like Argentina to likely go to the semis.
Do you have the bets up for that group?
No, I have them sort of written down. I'm just glancing at some papers.
Why don't you pull up that site real quick, maybe for next group, and we'll bring it in so we can kind of look at what the options are.
We'll dive through some lines.
Some visual to it. Yeah. You
I do think Argentina and Mexico, the climate, the environment, I think that it favors them for sure. I don't think Poland can fight both teams in the way that they would like to. I agree with you, DJS. I think that Poland is bit part in many ways. And I think Saudi Arabia, it's a questionable one. I mean, we kind of glazed all of these teams because we just simply don't know. And that's the beauty of the World Cup. But I just don't see, regardless of where we think Poland may or may not finish, I just don't see how Saudi Arabia could compete with an Argentina or even with a Mexico. I think that group is pretty set.
I think this, unfortunately, is similar to Group B with the Wales, USA coming first off the bat, you know, Poland, Mexico right off the bat. It's, you know, get to Qatar, 4 days, you know, I don't know how hot it is. I assume it's, you know, 90s plus.
Oh, they talk about the humidity is extreme right now. Yeah. It's just...
Right. But, you know, you're adapting to weather, your time difference, pressure, the media, you know, new players. international football is tough, I think. And again, I think it's about who can get there and who can settle quickest. And that, unfortunately, is the first game in the group. So we'll see how it plays out. Similar to the Wales-USA, I'm probably going to take a draw in that Mexico-Poland. I think first game, it's going to be a bit cagey. People aren't going to want to be too open out the back. They're not going to be playing this, beautiful footy, if you will. But yeah, I think that's where I stand.
That lends it to Mexico. I think it lends it to them to go forward and push. And I think the style of play that they play with a high press and trying to play quick and the aggression, the fight that I think we'll see will be more than what we'll see from Poland. I think they might sneak it.
Yeah, we'll see. As far as bets, though, just circling back, I like Argentina probably to make the semi stage elimination. That's at like a plus 380, give or take line at the moment. I think Brazil is going to win the tournament. Again, take this for what you will. That rivalry, though, is going to be a coin flip. Like, who knows? You get Brazil and Argentina squaring off in a World Cup semi. That is what dreams are made of. So an interesting, maybe bet. You can get this around like 24, 25, 26 to 1. Is Argentina to win the tournament and Messi to win the Golden Ball.
It's a nice bet.
Golden Ball, for those who know, is just player of the tournament. I think if they win, if you're going to bet on Argentina win the tournament, take that. It's going to happen. There's no way, no world we live in that they don't win. But that's around 24 to 1. Argentina futures dropped from about 10 to 1 to 6 to 1, which is interesting. I think a lot of sharp money is sort of falling there. But
big gun, Argentina, Mexico in this group. Good choice. That's a good choice. I think that's where we're leaning on this one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Group D. Let's jump into Group D. This is an interesting one. There's so much to it, simply because, much like a lot of the other groups, you would consider that we would have a France, basically as it looks right now. You might go France and Denmark to progress out of this group, but France have amazing potential to fully shit the bed.
Yep. And I like this storyline way more when it's not sort of like creeping up on Twitter and, that whatever broadcasters like, be wary of France. I think what really did it is, these injuries in the midfield, right? It's Conte's out. Pogba, say what you want about his club form. He always shows up for France at the international level. Benzema just got back to training, and, we're filming this now with injuries the day before the tournament starts, and it looks like he might be hurt. I don't know. I haven't checked my phone, but I've been getting texts, so it looks like Benzema. Yeah, that's a storyline to watch. As well as that, I'm not too convinced in their back line. Varane, similar to Pogba, and maybe just the Manchester United in them. Club form, shaky. International level, though, you sort of like them. But I think, with these doubts, it's okay. You have Camavinga and whoever in the midfield, these young guys, Koundé, whoever it is. It's the front three we have to talk about, right? It's Benzema being fit, Mbappe, and Griezmann playing in that 10 behind them. Not many teams in the world can.
So the argument is, how do you get Griezmann and Mbappe to play together? And then my counter to that is, who fucking cares? Get them on the field and let's see what happens. But that would have also been with the quality behind them, with like a Pogba or a Kante to do the dirty work, because he'll do the dirty work of 5 players. So you can afford to have those players essentially playing pickup soccer, which is wait for the ball so they can attack. And I just wonder how it shapes up for them. Because Denmark, Eriksen is back from the dead. We look at, this Viking mentality, this push forward to build on what they had through the Euros and to perform in a way that should give them qualification in this group. But then you look at Australia, they traveled around the globe like 4 times to get through the qualification for this group. And a lot of that comes from they're moving qualification groups to be able to find more competition, to not just have these easy qualifications, given that this is now their 5th consecutive World Cup. And I just think then you throw in Tunisia, AFCON quarterfinals. They just lost to Brazil pretty heavily recently. And suddenly this whole group just looks like a mess. I don't know how you predict this group at all.
It's tough. I mean, I think you touch on it though. It's with France, I think it's less is more. Sometimes I think like a Southgate is very, XYZ, exactly what England team is going to look like when they come out and play, whether it's 4 the back, 5 the back. With France, I mean, I think of my days growing up playing and, even currently it's take the shackles off. Let those guys just, obviously within reason, and I even just saying this out loud now, I'm sort of catching myself. Like, is Mbappe the player you say that to, with sort of his ego and how he's spiraling out of control, or at least so it seems. But if Benzema is actually fit, and these rumors that are sort of circling down now are, a little iffy, even if he's playing for, 1 or 2 of the group stage games, they're going to make a run. And it's tough. I have them losing to England in the quarters, both winning their groups. And that, of course, is contentious, and say what you will. I obviously have an England shirt on and a David Beckham jersey on the wall behind me as we speak. But yeah. France, for obvious reasons. Where do you think it shakes up?
France to win it all.
Denmark, Australia, Tunisia. I think we'll assume.
My problem
and
with
I think
the French
not
team
get
is
too cute.
It's essentially an international all-star team, where I don't know. I feel like they're just importing players from around the world.
There's been arguments about adjusting that.
I have qualms with it.
Players are originally from. Yeah, they're talking about trying to change that, trying to get players back to their home countries, basically away from France, is what it seems.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Seems a little jacked up, but
where do you guys see it shaking? Like, let's assume France is the top spot, right? I mean, it has to be the Danes at 2. Like, I think on paper, at least, Schmeichel, Christensen, Eriksen, Delaney, Anderson,
Eriksen back from the dead,
Kasper Dolberg. Yeah, it's like you just look at the team.
You look at Tunisia, the captain, is it Maksani? I think is his name. He plays in Qatar. So he's the captain of the squad. He's not playing in an environment that is like a lot of players are playing in Europe, playing at the top level. And then the rest of the squad just kind of falls onto that. They play on the fringes of the lower divisions, some in Europe, some in Asia. And so I don't think that Tunisia can provide the fight that Samuel Eto'o is hoping for. So therefore, I think we find Denmark beating Australia, and I think that is where, and assuming the French can hold it together and they can pull it out and have a strong performance. So I do think it's a French Denmark or a French Danish qualification out of that group.
Yeah.
Group E.
I actually was at Euros. Last thing. For those who don't know, Denmark was the Cinderella story, right? Through to the semis of the Euros. I was there.
Well, that was after the Eriksen attack, right?
Right. Yeah. And so I think it's a different tournament for them, right? I think they have the weight of the world, and I think everyone was rooting for. If they weren't playing England, I think everyone, whoever's, whatever it is, you're rooting for the Danes, and I think that emotion being gone, it might be a different tournament for them. I'm a little weary on, a lot of people have them as their dark horse after the Euro performance. I think we'll see how it shapes up. Personally, I don't like them going too far. I think being in an easier group, they have that benefit. And of course, they've done it before on the international stage. I'm not too confident that making it too far, though, just for those who, a lot of people are out there saying, I have the Danes quarter semis. So just note of caution.
There's a grit that will get you so far, but I agree with you. I don't think that it's long for the road for them.
All right, should we hop in? Group E?
Let's go to Group E.
This is fun.
This one is wild to me because, of course, maybe given my European bias, I see, of course, Germany and Spain and the history around these squads, and then also the potential for both squads. I mean, Germany just played England off the park for 80 minutes in the Nations League. And then the hope for me, it's like when you play golf and you hit a par or a birdie on the 18th hole. The hope is that what keeps you coming back. And this is where we're at here, that Germany controlled the game for so long, and then England still found a way to grind it out. And that's not the German way. And then you look at the Spaniards they don't have the same identity that they've always had, because this is a new generation for good or bad, I don't know. But then you have the Japanese that just have this unknown potential consistently. And of course, Costa Rica, Central America, with the favor that we believe in this environment. It's crazy.
Yeah. How do you see it shaking up? What are you thinking?
I think, so for me, the way I see it is, I think it is a Germany-Spain qualification. And I think that Costa Rica, I don't think they can pack it in. I don't think that they can perform, assuming the other three teams come in strong. I think Costa Rica have qualified on merit, but they don't have the value that they can bring to upset any of these teams. Maybe Japan, but that's only, again, my European bias as I look at it. And I think, well, Japan are somewhat unproven in the European divisions, of course. We don't see them as much. So then look at Spain still relying on a guy like Alvaro Morata. He's probably offside more than he is onside. And then you look at the frustrations that come against the way the Japanese and also perhaps the Costa Ricans can pack it in against Spain. And then the question marks around Spain being able to break that down with the tiki-taka, which we know about so well, but can they execute in a way that I think the Germans can? You know, the Mannschaft, the resilience, the strength that they have, the consistency that they have as a phenomenal footballing nation. I think they just have so much potential.
I'm all over Germany. I'm not a fan of the team, but I think this tournament, I think they have a lot going for them. I think Spain is interesting, right? I think Spain on paper probably has one of their weakest teams of their last, I don't know, whenever that generation came through, 2006,
right?
Maybe. So you're looking at, 4 or 5 tournaments where that core just sort of carried them through. And I think what's going for them is, with that sort of out of the picture now, that's expectations are really low. And I think we're comparing them to these great Spanish teams, right? But I think if you look at this team, as an individual, there are still pieces, right? You have Rodri, maybe Busquets sitting with some of these young guys, whether it's Gavi, Pedri. Your back line is still solid. De Gea's been playing lights out this year for United.
De Gea's not there. They didn't pick him. That's his retirement.
Oh, really?
Song. Yeah, they didn't pick him.
Oh, wow.
So then, it's almost in turmoil. Like there is something there that isn't there. We're looking at a different Spain. You're right. It's a very different Spain. Maybe that opens the door for the Japanese team to grind through. I mean, I really hope that they don't get eliminated and sweep their changing rooms the same way they did in Russia. Like, I don't ever want to see that again. I want to see them clearing house and getting out. No problem. It's so interesting.
Yeah. That's where I was going. Like, I think people are too low on Spain. I think at the end of the day, they still have pieces compared to past Spanish teams, not the same team. I've been talking to a lot of friends. A lot of people do like Japan sneaking out of this group with Germany.
Yeah.
And I think the safe money and where I'll be putting my bets is Germany to win the group -110. It's basically an even money. I think Spain might even be favored at -150, which to me blows my mind. I also have a future on Germany at like 10-ish, 11-ish to 1 to win the tournament. I have them at least getting to the semis. Yeah. I think they have the best midfield in the tournament. You look at, let's say Kimmich. I don't know who's going to start. Kroos obviously isn't in the team. He's retired from internationals. But let's say, Müller is steady. Feels like he scores big goals at every game. But Goretzka, I'd assume, would be sitting with Kimmich. They have that Bayern Munich, chemistry. Gundogan, Musiala actually is who I'm taking to win Young Player of the Tournament. I think it's between him and Jude Bellingham. Yeah. I think on paper, the team is great. You have Neuer, solid Rudiger back line. I think the biggest thing for Germany is, you touch on this German mentality, and it seems like they're always in the latter stages of every tournament. It feels like they win every penalty shootout they've ever been in. But they don't have the, I think it's became publicized, right, in the 2006 World Cup, when you have maybe 2008, just that golden generation for England. You have the Chelsea players sitting on one side of the room. You have the Man United players sitting over here. You've got the Arsenal players, the Liverpool players, just this rivalry, which players would bring. I think
in one
Mourinho. Yeah. So what I guess just for a bit of context is, and Chickinnuggets, you can talk to this too, but the Premier League at the time was a much different league than it was now. It's much more physical, still the high press, high paced game. But these players would bring in these domestic, club rivalries into the England national team. And I think Germany has always avoided this. I think you've probably 12 players playing for either Bayern or Dortmund. Bayern's probably got 8-10 players in themselves. And I think they avoid this. Even, at times that Spanish team, miraculous, they were able to get over the line and win a couple Euros and a World Cup, given, the peak Real Madrid-Barcelona rivalry going on at the time. And I think it's going to be tough. Germany, I think, avoids that, which is an added benefit. You look at their team on paper, the German mentality. Maybe this group sets them up well, having a few early games that are going to test them, with different styles of plays as well. I see them, again, at least going to the semis. And I think at that point, you're probably seeing them go against an England or a France on that side of the bracket. And I see on paper, I think they would beat both of those teams. I would have, again, England beating them on paper after beating France and then losing to Brazil in the final. But I do have a future on Germany 11-1, 10-1-ish, depending on when you're taking it to lift the cup.
Yeah.
And Musiala, again, young player of the tournament. What was that?
Oh, we got a yo from Jar P here.
Jar P.
Who's your winner for this disaster of a World Cup?
Oh yeah, I like that. We know
who starts for Germany up front. Is it going to be Havertz and like a false 9? With Gnabry.
Played for Chelsea, right?
Opposite side. Yeah.
Germany or Argentina. So, Jappy, you joined us at the right time. Germany is what we talked about. We talked about Argentina a little bit too. Germany or Argentina. I mean, I don't like either of them. Fuck them both. So now we're talking England winning it, right? That's all that really matters.
Are you talking about the
Argentina
players?
did, yeah. So Jappy says they shipped in 6,000 pounds of meat. Argentina did it, and so have, I think it's Brazil or Uruguay. There's a famous picture of Uruguay in the last World Cup where they had this huge barbecue going on. And then when you talk about Germany created a German village in the jungle of Brazil when they won the World Cup in Brazil. And everything was German. It was like they were going home after every game. And there's an amazing book called Das Reboot, where they talk about basically the revitalization of what the German leagues were, what the German kind of DNA was around developing soccer. And it was culminated at the Brazilian World Cup, and that's where they won the World Cup. That's where they embarrassed the Brazilians. And I just look at these options,
When I watched that 2014 World Cup, and that's when I first started. I didn't play soccer really as a kid, and it just wasn't part of growing up for me. And so I got into it as an adult, and it was right around 2011 or so when I moved to Seattle, started going to Sounders matches, that I started watching international, getting more excited. So that 2014 World Cup was the first World Cup I was really invested in. I remember watching that German team. Man, they just seemed like they were men playing with boys. They were bigger, stronger, they were just nasty.
Yeah. Oh God, they were incredible.
Yeah, I mean, they just
so
clearly different.
Where are we shaking on this? Where are we shaking? What do you got, Jungle? Germany, Spain, Japan, Costa Rica. Where are we at? 1, 2, 3, and 4 in this? What's your feeling?
Well, my feeling is probably Germany and Spain, but what I like is I like Japan. I like a flyer on Japan here. They're fast. They play smart. They're technical. I like it.
Japan's a fun pick. I think if you're looking at brackets.
We don't really know them. They don't have a lot of history. They might get a little bit over on some people.
There's a lot of potential there.
Costa Rica's fast. I mean, there could be some fun matches in this group.
Wise guys, what's going on, mate? What you got? Who you got to win this thing? Let's talk about that. Who you got to win this thing?
While he's shooting some stuff over, I'll go my top to bottom. I think Germany, head and shoulders, top spot. A few bets on Germany. Their over points total for the group is 5.5. I love that. I have them to win the tournament at 11-1 as one of my sort of 3 futures on the tournament. Winning the group is even money again. And then Musiala, young player, is like 5.5, maybe 6.5-1. I don't remember off the top of my head. But as you can see, I'm sort of sprinkling all over Germany for better or worse. Probably mix it up on your end if you're taking some of these bets. But top dog. 2, I'm going to stick with Spain for the reasons I said, right? I think we're doing ourselves a disservice and Spain a disservice comparing them to their best teams. I think on paper, they're not as strong as they have been. That being said, they're still Spain. I think they have a lot of talent across, particularly in the midfield is, that tiki-taka style they like to play. I think Spain will go 2. 3rd will be Japan, and 4th, Costa Rica. But Costa Rica have beaten big teams the last few World Cups. I think they beat Spain, actually, oddly enough. If I'm not mistaken, that one year Spain got knocked out. I think it was 2-0 Costa Rica. They have an upset in them.
Yeah, that's right. They advanced I think they went to the quarters, didn't they?
I should have looked into it. Do you have it up?
No. I will. You keep talking. I'll look it up.
But yeah, I think it's going to be a fun group. And I think it's probably on paper the one people are most excited in. And that second spot's probably up for grabs, I think. But Spain, for me, at least, is where I'd see it going. I've talked about Germany, potentially going all the way, at least in my opinion, to the semis against like that France-England juggernaut they're going to come across. Spain, I could see them out 16. I don't see them getting past the quarters, unfortunately. I think they're better than people give them credit for. I still don't think they're great.
2014, that first World Cup I was involved in, that's why I was like, oh, I know this. Costa Rica made it to
They drew with England. Did they beat Italy and Uruguay, right? They beat them both.
Yeah. Italy was the defending champ. Right. They beat them, and then they got knocked out by the Netherlands in penalties.
Did they? It was penalties. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So this is the same thing here. Costa Rica sat at the bottom of that group. England, Italy, Uruguay, arguably the top 3 of the group. It's like, well, how's this going to shake out? And then, they just sneak through.
Well, I also remember that's the year that, U.S. got out of that group with Germany and Portugal and managed to tie their way out of it, and Portugal didn't advance.
Was that the year of Timmy?
No, it was 2014 still. It was all the same year, right? Yeah, it was. Yeah. I think Portugal was like number 4 in the world and didn't get out. Group stage.
All right, Group F. Let's jump.
The old versus the young.
Another interesting one. Yeah.
Yeah. Should we pull it up?
Group F, mate.
So we're looking at Belgium, Croatia, Canada, Morocco. This one is also, every World Cup is going to have, different elements of surprise and whatnot. I think this is really intriguing. We were talking about this actually in the KOD Discord the other day. Belgium, in my opinion, you look at their back line, you look at their age, you look at their big players who have carried them to semifinals and, 3rd place in the last World Cup, being, this front 3 of Hazard, Lukaku, and KDB. De Bruyne, for me, is the best midfielder in the world, arguably the best player at the moment on current form, as he has been the last few. Any game that he's in, he can change it with one ball, anything. So I think be wary on counting them out. I think their age, though, is a big problem. You have their back line. It's, Courtois will be there to save the day, as he was for Real Madrid, sort of carrying them to a Champions League final against Liverpool.
And we're going to pass Luka Modric.
Modric is 37, I think, right now.
Yeah, he's an old man. But I mean,
I think KDB's probably been the best midfielder in the world for maybe a year or two after Pep came in. Pep's been there, what, 5 or 6 years? I think he's probably been best midfielder, like at least for a few seasons now. He can just do it all. You look at some of the balls he's putting in for Hall. Like, I could be scoring goals to the Prem with some of this service. So
I don't think.
Well, if Lukaku can play like Haaland, then there's the potential for it to replicate
big if there.
The World Cup. Yeah.
I just think they're old. I think it's tough. I think you look at their core, Tielemans and Witsel, if that's the two they decide to start in the middle is, fine. It's good. I think against some of these later teams, I just think the knockout stage, they probably get ran off the park a bit. They don't really have legs in there. I'm worried about Lukaku.
So let's look at Morocco. Morocco, at bottom of the group in our kind of perspective. Big names that they have, Ziyech of Chelsea and then Hakimi of PSG, like strong players in strong teams. But then you look at the rest of the squad around them, it's like they qualified strong, they qualified well, but now you've got to step up and play against a Canadian team that is outstanding. They've performed so well, they qualified so well, but again, they qualified in the same division, the same areas in the way that Morocco has done. And you look at what Belgium and Croatia have had to fight through in terms of the European qualification. They play the Nation League for continuous and constant quality competition. Look at Croatia's performances. Now they're sort of rebuilding around the team that went all the way to the final in 2018. The Belgians, it feels like this is a swan song for them to an extent, that this is the end of an era. And I don't know what they've done on the back end personally for continuously developing the talent of a player like Kevin De Bruyne. Are you able to recreate that? Do you have more players coming through like that? And I just don't know where they're at. It feels like Martinez, and this is the last chance to really push. And side note, I was at the England-Belgium game in Russia, and it's the weirdest game I've ever been to because I wanted England to lose, because England losing meant that aside from the game that we had against Colombia, it was a somewhat easier route to the final as we saw. So being at a game at a World Cup that you paid a lot of money to get to, because this was in the province of Russia, one of the many provinces of Russia, let's talk about that. But then we fly in, we stay in these Soviet era rooms, and it was just wild, but paying all this money to go to a game and hoping and expecting England to lose. Both teams play weakened teams. And that's kind of where I see this group shaking out towards the end. Like, you look at the schedule for them, and Croatia, Belgium play, I think it's the second game that they play against each other. And I think that it won't be that kind of hope that we lose type situation. And that could be the biggest game of this group here to determine who can push out. And I think that will find a way for a team like Canada to qualify.
So yeah, Canada qualified convincingly in this, excuse me. A lot of people in the US are probably familiar with them from this qualification process. Again, it's sort of the young versus the old, right? You look at a team like Belgium and Croatia who are, they've been on the best, Champions Leagues. They both made the semis of the last World Cup. Do you see it? Do you see it really though? Like, Croatia, I have a lot of friends actually taking Croatia to go maybe quarters, semis, maybe not the finals. Belgium as well. I was looking at my friend's bracket the other day, semis, boom. I think for me, it's
travels. Croatia is my favorite place I've been. I've gone there twice now. I love everything about it. The people, the beaches, just everything. And like rooting for them last World Cup, I kept betting money line on them when they beat Russia, beat England. It paid handsomely. I was, betting with heart over mind, of course, but sometimes that works out. And I'm always going to root for Croatia. They're old though.
Does Croatia win the group? In your
no, but I think they get out of it. I think Belgium probably takes it.
I think Croatia might actually take the group. maybe that shows you where I'm at with Belgium. It's tough, obviously, to fade against, KDB being the guy he is. But I mean, even Croatia, you look at their top 5 players, right? Modric is 36, 37. Kovacic is young, sure. Perisic as well, 34, 35. Rakitic.
Perisic is playing left back for Tottenham right
Kramaric.
now.
Like Brozovic. I think they have young players coming through. I think these young players have been done a disservice from Croatia, though. Being that this golden generation they've had has been so good for so long, they've, sort of attempted to hold that together, if you will. That these young guys coming through, maybe, similar to what England might have experienced in 2010 with Lampard and Gerrard. And, those guys are clinging on for their last tournament or two. So I think a similar thing is probably happening with Belgium and Croatia. I have Croatia probably winning the group, maybe Belgium as well. I think they'll get through. It'll be interesting to see Canada, I think, again, one tournament too early, similar to the US with these young guys they have coming through. Morocco, I'll be honest, I don't know too much about Morocco outside of, of course, like the Hakimi at PSG, Ziyech at Chelsea, and a few of those other guys. So this one I think is wide open. This is one of the more open, I would say. I think the young pace and athleticism from a Canadian team that's confident off a good qualifying campaign, especially we talk about this heat in Qatar.
What do you got?
Age the legs. I'm going to go Croatia 1, Belgium 2. I'm not going to touch this group. I'm not going to touch any teams in this group from a betting side of thing. But
I think Canada will have a punt. And I think, Big Gun says he's chatting with friends that are Canadian. So, of course, you get the bias. But I do think that Canada has some potential. But, of course, it's fucking freezing in Canada right now. So, but majority of Canadians, Alphonso Davies is playing in Germany. So,
and Jonathan David, that's a 2-man counter. The pace with them two, and they play Davies, for those, he plays sort of like a left back, if you will, for Bayern. Sometimes left. I mean, he just gets up the left flank. He plays sometimes, he's like playing as a second striker, like a left winger for Canada. So, him and Jonathan David, the pace there, you're going up like an Alderweireld for Belgium. I think there's just too much pace. I think they'll cause problems. I'm not as confident as you Nuggets to go ahead and say they're going to make it out the group, but I think
it's a fun group.
This is fun. Again, old versus young, a lot of storylines. Yeah.
I mean, I'll be pulling hard for Croatia, but I just think this is a fun group. Like, it's, to me, the group where, like, you really don't know what's going to happen. Like, you can't confidently even pick one team to come out. And that's what I like about it.
I think Belgium, a lot of people will be like, they're, Well,
yeah. I mean, that's, if you're going to pick one, that's the one. But I just feel like we'll see.
Yeah.
Because they're three in the world right now? Is that right?
Yeah. And again, look, I'm just telling people to push the brakes a little bit.
They're a better place to put your money right now. Yeah.
Yeah. With the value, I would say the same. Maybe they have young guys coming, like Onana plays for Everton. Looks like a young Yaya Toure. But
Everton sucks,
we'll see how it. Yeah, different discussion.
Let's go to G. Jigga, let's go to Group G. This one is should be a dead set, at least for winner of the group.
Do we want to talk about Brazil?
Oh, hey, we got a little meatball in the chat here.
Meatball, want to jump on? Josh Pereira, also known as Meatball.
Yeah, we should bring Josh Pereira on the chat. He's got some
Pizza.
insight.
What's up, buddy? Pizza, who's your winner? Who's your winner of the World Cup?
Let's hear it.
Same question for you, Meatball. Who's your winner? And you can't say.
Well, I'll make it easy for him. Brazil is my favorite to win the tournament. They are in Vegas for good reason. They are.
What's the line?
I think they've dropped almost like 4-1 now, 3.5 to 1. They are sort of odds on, if you will.
Yeah.
If you've seen Tete, he's the Brazilian coach. He's playing with formations to get 4 strikers on the field, because if you look at their lineup, it's an upside down pyramid. It starts at the back and it just goes strikers. Just get everybody on the field. Just go and score goals. We'll win the game 10-9. Doesn't matter. We'll just go win the game by as many as we can.
And Brazil's had that problem in the past. You've you've had teams with Kaká, Ronaldinho, the original Ronaldo. So they've always had this abundance of talent. Neymar is sort of their talisman now. I actually think Richarlison likely starts as the 9. He has the 9 shirt. I think he scored. He either has the most. This was a few months ago. You think Jesus? I think Jesus criminally underperforms his XG. Yeah. I think he has done for City. You look at his numbers at Arsenal. It feels like they're putting plates of food in front of him, and he's dropping them every step of the way. I think Brazil. I think Richarlison starts at the 9. They love him. I think he's their top goal scorer since he made his debut in 2008. I'm actually placing a cheeky future on Richarlison to win Golden Boot at plus 3,000. It was shared the other day that he's also plus 600 to finish as Brazil's top goal scorer. I know it's tough. Neymar might be on pen, so that's a couple goals there.
I think it's important to note that Neymar is such a little bitch. Like nobody.
The problem is too. You look at what he's
from an American non-soccer fan standpoint. Neymar is intolerable to watch.
Yeah, but I think Brazil's going to win this group, and I think there are a lot of people's favorites to win the tournament, and I think within that there's good value. Richarlison, Golden Boot, and whatnot. I pray we get Brazil, Argentina in the semis. I hope there isn't, an upset with the Netherlands and Argentina, or, like a Belgium, for instance, with Brazil. I hope we get it. It would be outside of a Ronaldo versus Messi in a World Cup final, if Portugal can somehow figure it out.
Oh, yeah.
It would be the rivalry there, South America, it'd be a lot of fun. And I think that it's a great, let's just pray. I don't want to say too much. We're going to jinx it, knock on some wood, but that's where I stand. And I think outside of Brazil, this is where it gets, I think the Switzerland, Serbia, I'm not going to disrespect Cameroon. I just don't think they have it in them. That is going to be a coin flip. And I'm leaning Serbia. I'll be honest, boys. I'm leaning Serbia.
The problem I have with Serbia is the Mitrovic, of course, is a star, but can he perform on the world stage? Is he dynamic enough to lead the team forward? And I just don't think that he's a great player, but will Serbia have enough of the ball to be able to target him in the way that he can be targeted in the Premier League? And I think if you look at they play against Brazil, I think almost all 3 teams probably write off the games against Brazil. They probably feel really good about the games against Cameroon. So that's why I think the Switzerland-Serbia game is such a big game, because I think it really gives. There's I think
too much going forward. I think Serbia has too much. Milinkovic, Savic, obviously in the midfield.
Sure.
I think they're also going to play 2 up front with Mitrovic and Vlahovic at Juventus. Big money signing, recently. Tadic is, I think, probably is top 5 assists for Ajax in the top 5 or top 6 European leagues. I think those 4, and then you get further down the list. You look at Nemanja Matic being able to sort of distribute, clean up shop. Maybe he doesn't have the legs to do it in the Prem, but for Roma, he's doing a job for Mourinho there. Just getting the ball to Tadic, to Kostic at Juventus, and just letting them sort of go to work. I think there's so much.
Sure.
They're my dark horse. They are where I see myself falling with Uruguay, who's we'll get to in a sec. But I'm happy we finally got to Serbia.
So you don't have to do them research.
Number 2.
DJS did it for you.
Yeah.
Pizza. Why England? Shoot us a comment. What do you think England? And then no need to research. So go on, DJS. I think I agree.
Sorry to interrupt, but Pizza said, I don't want to do any research. And I said, well, you don't have to. DJS did it for you.
They're talking about England.
So for those who maybe missed it, I had a lot of maybe 10 or 12 units on Senegal over 3.5. I ended up texting my bookie, hey, we need to cancel that bet. Throw it all on Serbia over 3.5. Better line instead of minus 160. That's at minus 140, give or take.
Your bookie will let you do that?
Well, I'm in California, so it's not like a DraftKings. So it's
in California, bro.
Yeah. Don't say that. Don't say that.
Actually, this whole cast is coming from California.
Well, here we go, right? I think Switzerland-Serbia is a great game, and I think Brazil, for obvious reasons, win the group. Serbia, I have them second. I also potentially have them upsetting in the last 16, depending on, what shapes up with the other group here in Group H. I think they could potentially beat both Uruguay and Portugal. I just think they have too much going forward. Switzerland always seems to get out their group. I don't know how. Shaqiri just scoring hat tricks in the World Cup seems a bit odd to me. He sort of passed it. Xhaka, yes, playing absolutely fantastic for Arsenal this year.
To back up 1 second. You have Serbia over 3.5 points as the bet you move from Senegal.
Yes, once Mane was out. I'm a big fan. Maybe a safer bet. Maybe, I'm not sure. I looked at the odds.
Ooh, let's go.
Is probably Serbia to qualify. For obvious reasons, like I said, you have Vlahovic, you have a few of these guys who we're not even talking about, the Mitrovic, the Tadic, going forward with, I think they're going to do it. And I wouldn't be surprised if they make a run to like the quarters, for instance.
You want to comment on that comment there from Mr. Joshua Pereira?
I think we all agree Messi is probably going to do it. I think it's
yeah.
I think so. We talked Argentina, we talked Brazil, but it just it's lined for him. It's meant to go. As for Pizza letting his wife make his picks, that's pretty cool too. Say again.
How's the squad around Messi? Because I know.
Yeah, I feel like we just talked all Messi.
Yeah,
Martinez is a dark horse for Golden Boot. I think if you look at Argentina to go far, you would expect their number 9. The same thinking there is, why I have Richarlison. No, but you have Di Maria. I think Dybala's likely not fit. Don't hold me to that. I think he's coming into the tournament with a knock. Lo Celso also got hurt. I think he's just been hurt. I know he got hurt a few weeks ago and he's missed some time. But a Di Maria, Messi, Martinez has been playing well in the Serie A. I think is going to cause a lot of teams problems.
As a mostly football fan, you can come back from injury and your fitness isn't really an issue because you need like 15, 20 seconds of energy before you get a breather or perhaps a sub out. Whereas in soccer, if you're hurt for 6 weeks and you can't actually train, you can't come back and run 7 miles in 45 minutes or whatever the hell it is. Yeah. It's a different injury factor to consider where you could have anything. It doesn't even matter if it's actually an injury that might linger, but just losing that training, I think is actually a lot more consequential than it is in football.
I think the problem that they face as Argentinians is there's an expectation that everybody's looking ahead to the final, that they should be in the final, that they should be challenging semi-final, final. And there's potential slips that can be made between now and then. The team itself, you still got Otamendi potentially playing centre-back, which, say what you like about Otamendi, he's a phenomenal player, but just like as DJS said with Stones for England, there's something in there. There's a doubt sometimes. But that forward line, you potentially playing Messi and Di Maria either side of Martinez, there's so much potential going forward. There's so much for them to go. And even if you just put everything on Messi, give the ball to Messi, just give it to him. Just let him do it. This is where if it goes wrong early on for them, it could all fall apart. We talked about the French and possible implosion if it doesn't quite work out. This could go the same way if things start going against Argentina. Whether they will or not in the group stage, we just don't know, of course. But there is a chance that there may be too much pressure, there may be too much expectation, and that is where it could begin to tailspin.
And they finally have a keeper. I think Messi's played his international career just with, sort of shaky guys, probably since Fabian, or no. Who was I can't remember the old England fiascos we had in the late 90s, early 2000s, but a little before Messi's time. Martinez, sort of a hero in their Copa America run, with some of these PKs and whatnot. He's a dark horse for me to win keeper of the tournament. And you look at guys in the midfield, like Lo Celso is hurt, but DePaul, Paredes, they have quality at some of the top clubs in Europe. And I know Paredes wasn't able to get into the team at PSG. Not a lot of guys are. He's trying his luck elsewhere, but it just seems like Messi has a team around him now that can win the ball back, that can, maybe drag him to a 0-0 game in the 60th minute and just say, hey, look, Lionel, we need you. Go get us a goal.
Let's go.
It feels like they finally have, and again, maybe it's written in the stars, maybe it's not. I think that Götze goal is probably still giving him nightmares, but we'll see.
Yeah,
and I know we sort of skipped around.
Heartbreaking if Argentina gets knocked out early and we miss Messi. We agree. There should be like a waiver wire. He can go and play for someone.
Oh yeah. I mean, again, I come back to that 2014 World Cup where it's the first one I really watched, where I was engaged. I was watching really, really involved. I watched as many matches as I could, and I just felt like it was Messi and then a wreck team. And the fact that they made it to the finals, lost by 1 to a team that had dominated the whole tournament, it was really incredible. But if he's got a squad around him, that's exciting.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know we skipped around.
7?
Messi's 30.
Messi's 35. Yeah, he's 35. So
Ronaldo.
He's not going to play again at 39. So yeah, there you go. There's the question. This is last go. I think it's got to be his last go. There's no way you could play at 39. And if he is playing at 39, what value does he offer? I mean, there's no doubt that he could still probably control the MLS at 39. But yeah,
I think he might come out.
He can play libero, no problem.
Beckham's calling him and saying, "Hey, come down to Inter Miami." Well, he's got I know he's got a condo there too, one of the high rises in Miami. So wouldn't be surprised if maybe this is his last season at the top level.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Jigger, Group H. The eighth of 8. So this is
quickly before we dive in here, though. Do you guys share the Serbia sentiment, or are you guys more Switzerland, Cameroon? Just wrap that one up. I think we all agree.
Since Tito died, I feel like Serbia has had trouble with the proper kind of unity. I think they they produce a lot of good athletes out of that country in a lot of sports. And I don't know. I think they still need to pay for their crimes. I got them not making out of the group stage.
Switzerland?
For that reason alone?
Serbia. So I'll take Switzerland over them, yeah.
Switzerland? Any Cameroon shouts? What are we thinking?
I don't know. You look at just the story about...
I feel like I don't know anything about the
director of football. Really. Yeah, they're so unknown, but you look at Samuel Eto'o, who apparently picked the Cameroonian team, and Rigobert Song was trying to read the team list of the players that he picked, and is then saying who's Junglegoat?
Well, Samuel Eto'o,
and he's reading this
stuff.
So so then Samuel Eto'o is arguably picking the team, and then if you saw Samuel Eto'o's bracket of how he sees everything playing out, he sees Qatar beating England in the round of 16. And he sees a Morocco-Cameroon final with, of course, Cameroon, his home country, winning. And he says that this is the African tournament. So but I don't see it personally. Other shouts for Cameroon, I don't think
he's getting juiced.
There's too much behind.
Everyone's getting juiced to prop up Qatar. I will say, in the very first soccer game I think I played on PlayStation, Eto'o was so good that you could be Cameroon and beat anyone. He would just hit.
It's a shame they don't have that going for them this year. I mean, most of their players, you look at like Joel Matip, right? I believe plays for Cameroon. Anguissa, Mbeumo plays for Brentford. I'm looking at their team now. I mean, a lot going for them at the back, and then you look at Switzerland as well. You have like the Zachary Akanji, who just earned a move to City this summer. Obviously, Xhaka sort of sitting in front. I know he plays a little more progressive and a little more advanced playing for Switzerland. He does at Arsenal, sort of sitting next to Partey. I think both these teams are sort of more comfortable sitting back, and I think Brazil sort of have a field day with that. I think Serbia as well. Let's not even give them a chance against the Brazilians, I don't think. But just going forward, I think if you're looking at these games and needing a goal out of somewhere and like a 0-0, a 1-0, I just feel much more comfortable with Serbia going out and getting it. And I think there'll be 2. And then I'll probably go Switzerland 3, Cameroon 4.
I mean, useless info for Switzerland. This is the core of the team that made it to the under-21 Euro final in 2011. So albeit 12 years ago, but there's an element of a DNA very similar to kind of how the Belgian team feels right now, kind of like a last chance saloon type. There's a chance that they could perform and they could pull it out. So there's opportunity there between the two. I appreciate your conviction on Serbia, and I'd probably back them also based on our discussion alone. I think that Serbia make it out with Brazil.
There it is.
All right, Jigger, let's go. Group H. Let's bring it home.
Potential for massive upsets here.
Ooh, real quick. I'll tell you what. I'll do a little. One of you, DJS, doing a little side bet on Switzerland,
Serbia. Let's do it.
Okay, let's do I don't know, 0.03 either.
Okay.
Deal.
And
if neither come out, then we both lose.
You pay each other.
Or if they both come out, we both win.
There we go.
But lose.
Push. All right. What's that? Like $5?
A little more. I think it's like 10.
All right, lads. Group H. What are we thinking?
Oh man, Uruguay, I think, have a dark horse status here. I think they have so much potential. Aside from Suarez and Cavani and the kind of old guard of Uruguay, I think they have a lot of potential underneath with the Madrid kid, Federico Valverde. Like Diego Alonso came in as coach. I just like they were unbeaten qualifying once he came in and took over. And again, we talked early on about the South American climate relating to what they're going to experience here in Qatar. I just think that there's so much to favor them, especially given the drama and the implosion that is going to happen with Portugal. Bruno Fernandes and Ronaldo can't even shake hands properly. And then you look at South Korea with Heung-min Son is questionable. And do they have the balls to compete with a Uruguay, with a Portugal? And then again, Ghana is another African team that we don't know much about. We know there's potential. I just don't know how anybody shapes up to Uruguay as winners of the group.
I don't like to defend Portugal. They've knocked England out of a few big tournaments. I will say this. I'll say this instead. Ronaldo is going to have a big tournament. I think Ronaldo goes out. I placed a little cheeky future on him to be the Golden Boot winner.
No way.
I think he might just come out.
Does that always go to somebody who, like, to a club that wins, or?
No, Golden Boot
is top scorer.
I know. Yeah. Oh, so it doesn't matter. You could score 12
the
goals in one match.
Golden Ball is the best player, which is like the MVP.
Golden Boot's most goals. So
in
theory, you could win it just in the group stage if you played Fiji twice or something.
Yeah. I mean, I also like Uruguay, right? I think, you have players, Valverde, Carlo Ancelotti, who is probably one of the best managers in European football of all time, has come out and said Valverde is one of his favorite midfielders at this age that he's ever worked with. And before the season, he said if Valverde doesn't score 10 goals, he's going to retire. Keep in mind, Ancelotti's 65, 70 along those lines. But Valverde has scored 8 or 9 goals, and we're sitting here at the World Cup break in November. So, you look at someone like that coming on from midfield. Torreira, Bentancur is probably going to be sitting alongside Valverde, who's been, playing fantastic and is probably in the form of his life for Tottenham. That front, I mean, Nunez, Cavani, Suarez, honestly, take your pick. I think at this level, Nunez gets a lot of shade as an Everton fan. I also love to bash him. But if you look at his numbers, yes, he misses a couple chances, but he's involved. Maybe it's a product of Liverpool's system. Maybe it's him getting to the right areas. But I think the underlying numbers are good. And I hate to say this again, but expect him to have a strong second half of the season. They're good. They're a deep team. You know, like you said, a lot of the same things there. I looked at Portugal though, and I think on paper, this team is fantastic. I don't really buy into the Ronaldo Bruno stuff. I saw an interview with Bruno after the fact saying, look, why didn't you watch it with audio, blah, blah, blah. So I think they're covering their tracks or they're gearing up. And I think Portugal wants, for the same reasons the entire country of Argentina and the players all talk about, this is for Messi, this is for Messi, this is for Messi. I don't think Cristiano's the same likable figure, especially after this interview has come out. But I think these Portugal players have looked up to him. You know, he's their talisman. He's, you know, injured in a Euro final, but won them a European championship. And then you have the back line that have Cancelo, Pepe's old, yes, but Diaz, Rui Patricio. You know, I'm just like Bruno spreading balls to Bernardo and Jota. And then you have Neves sitting with someone maybe like a Carvalho. It's just like Guerrero. They're so deep. There's so much talent. Then you have guys on the bench like João Felix, who people maybe trash on at Atletico. But there's too much quality here. And I've seen some picks being like, oh, it's going to be Uruguay, South Korea, Portugal, early flop. I'm not buying it. Again, cheeky bet on Portugal with Ronaldo to win the Golden Boot. I can see him coming out and blitzing South Korea for a hat trick, you know, first couple games into the tournament.
What are the odds on
we'll
Ronaldo
see.
Golden Boot?
I got him at plus 1,500.
Oh.
I would like to be proven wrong. I just don't see how this happens. And I think that Ronaldo flops in their first game. Who did they play in their first game? You guys have that up? Portugal, they play Uruguay in the first game.
Uruguay.
Yeah. I don't see him performing. I don't see him.
It's Ghana.
Oh, Ghana. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. That's the second game. I don't see him performing. I see him with all of the drama that's coming with it. I see that as something that carries onto the field. I mean, for whatever's put out in the media with Fernandes and all of the stuff around the camp, I think that Portugal will be a better team without Ronaldo. And the way I see it shaping out is they play against Ghana.
They'll be a better team without Ronaldo?
Without Ronaldo, as Manchester United have been this season too. And ping me if you like. I'll talk about it all day.
I think the thing about that is that makes sense for a team like, you know, me and you, who has a lot of other great players. Like when I've seen Portugal play, when the U.S. kept them out of advancing in the 2014 World Cup, it was Ronaldo or fucking bust.
Yes,
they're a much better team now.
The squad underneath.
With due respect.
Yeah, you drop Ronaldo and you play Joao Felix instead. You still have a phenomenal squad, and you still have a talisman in Felix that is. Is
he as good looking?
Ronaldo. Well, he doesn't believe he's as good looking, I think, is the difference between them.
Oh, yeah.
And I just think that with what Portugal, so I see them playing against Ghana. I see them struggling to an extent. I see Ronaldo doing what Ronaldo does with his casting players off and demanding the ball and stuff. And I think that they're going to find themselves in a position where they're going to have to make a change. And I think
I don't see it.
Dropping him and playing Felix instead, I think is the solution to that problem. And I think they're very strong contenders after that. But there's just Ronaldo, if you compare, you know, people love to talk about Ronaldo or Messi, and I don't believe in like the best ever. I just believe in quality. And unfortunately now Ronaldo's stock is going down given his personality, given all of the shit that's coming out. I mean, why are we releasing this controversial interview where he's got all of this stuff going on behind the scenes, where now there's talk of Man United cancelling his contract and potentially returning to Sporting or finding a new home and all of that stuff going on the eve of the World Cup? Why are you releasing that? Why are you doing that? I agree with you, DJS, to an extent that I really hope that this is smoke and mirrors for him to turn out as a stud. But I just don't see it. I would love to see it for the quality of the World Cup, for the show of the World Cup, for all the kids I coach, for them to see Ronaldo play and to blow up the way that we want him to. I just don't see it happening.
That's fair. And I'd almost argue if they aren't going to play Ronaldo, I'd almost prefer Jota and sort of a false 9 as he's on for Liverpool. Maybe get Rafael Leao in there. But I think there's too much at stake for Ronaldo, right? You can talk about
real quick for the kids in the chat. What exactly is a false 9?
So a false 9 is someone 9, who.
But false.
Number 9 is just your out and out striker, right? So a false 9 is someone who maybe on paper will play the striker role, but positionally will drop into holes. Firmino has sort of done this really well for speaking to Liverpool system, but drops into the holes, gets involved with link up play. Maybe is involved in the midfield and receiving the ball at feet, turning, playing it wide. We can have a tactical session in a bit, but essentially just a striker who is dropping deep and isn't really playing as a high focal point. Whereas, traditionally a number 9 is on the last defender's back, looking to get the ball on its feet, in the air, in behind. Those aren't really Jota's strengths. Whereas, maybe a Cristiano Ronaldo, for instance, you want to get in the ball and further up the pitch. So this is someone you maybe drop in. And it works in a system like Liverpool. We're just speaking to that. Mane and Salah are sort of your wide strikers, your wingers, if you will. So.
And those would be 10 and 11 on the edges.
11 and
depending
7.
on the system, maybe a 7. Exactly.
Or 10 I see it.
10 will be traditionally sitting behind the striker in like an advanced midfielder role.
One other quick question in the chat. Big Gun at Nights of Degen. Oh, another chat. I don't know what that means.
But I think just getting back here for a second, right? Like Cristiano Ronaldo, say what you want about his ego and going for these Champions League records, and maybe one of the reasons he wants to leave Man United is because he wants to go down as the top goal scorer in the Champions League of all time, and maybe he's worried Messi might catch when he plays another year or two, and all these different storylines that are going through his head, right? So there's that. I think when it comes to a World Cup, there is so much on the line for Ronaldo, and I think if Messi is, he's dropped from a 10-1 favorite with Argentina to now being 4.5-1. So they're at least, maybe it's just the betting lines, maybe it's the media, but there's this expectation that Argentina is one of the 2 or 3 teams you're expecting to see lifting the trophy at the end of the tournament. And I think that speaks to Ronaldo. He won't say it. And he's always said, "Oh, we should go get dinner." I saw this the other day, but like, "Oh, me and Messi should go get dinner. We've been on the world stage together for 15 years. It'd be great. We should go talk." Pele and Maradona did that, blah, blah, blah. I don't think he wants to do that. I think he wants to, cut his head off, if you will. And there's too much bringing this stuff. Yeah. But it's tough. I don't like just Bernardo Silva, like Bruno. There's just too much quality going forward. The back line. I don't see Ronaldo.
They are better without Ronaldo. They're better without him, I think, is where this lands. This is where I land on it.
Well, I think you look at someone like Man United, right? Like Ten Hag has to come into a Man United team that's been underperforming arguably since Sir Alex left. 2013, David Moyes came in, was it? So you have a team that's criminally underperformed for 8, 9, 10 years. They've given up on managers. Solskjaer is let go. And is that warranted? Maybe not. But he's in a position where Ten Hag has to come into that locker room and he has to make a say because they're playing week in, week out. With Portugal, you have potentially 2 weeks, potentially 4.5, 5 weeks, depending on where you're getting in the tournament, to go out and have, a real impact. There isn't time for drama in that locker room. I think if you're playing for Man United, again, arguably the biggest club in the world with like a Real Madrid, the storylines, the Prem, the British media, like it's just a different ball game. You have to come in and bring that locker room together. So I think there's a slightly different take on as far as, like where it might fall if he's in your team or not. Ronaldo scored like 28 goals, was it, for United last year? 30 plus for Juventus, give or take, the year before. He scored like 25, 28 goals in that range. Like he's still banging goals in it at a top level. So I think.
Sure he is.
Dark horse, 15-1. Golden boot.
That's a fair bet. It's a fair shout.
And look, we can disagree. We can disagree, which is good. But
no, it's good. It is.
It's just how many games they play.
Well, yeah, but you have 3 games to make an impact. And this is where it's interesting because it is because it's a performance environment. You have to go and you have to win games. And I think this is where we are going to struggle with what this World Cup is going to produce in terms of, if Ronaldo doesn't fire, do you stick with him? And if he does fire, which is what we're kind of talking about here, we're assuming he will, then of course you stick with him. Of course you ride him. Of course he could potentially have that golden boot. But if he doesn't, this is where the turmoil will come. And I don't know, with everything going on around the game, what it means for them. But then you look at South Korea, where you hear no noise, Heung-min Son. And I don't know much about them either, or Ghana, but with the potential implosion of what a Portugal could have, now you look at an opportunity for either of these teams to come through too. And of course, Ghana they outqualified Nigeria. They tied with them and got the away goal that knocked Nigeria out. And the sad thing about Nigeria missing is that they always have an incredible kit for the World Cup. So hopefully Ghana brings in an equally as amazing kit to replace it. But I don't know. Like, they have Amate of Leicester, they have Kudus of Ajax, and that's really, again, the same thing as most African teams. Yeah, Partey's in there. They have a couple of good level players, and then the rest of it would drop us away.
He's a player to watch in this tournament for me.
For sure, I agree.
He's 21, 22, 23. He sort of broke into that Ajax team. Unfortunately, as an attacking midfielder against Tadic, there's not much room in the team for him. He's looking for a move to away. He was linked with a few Prem teams this summer. He's been scoring goals in the Champions League. I think he had like 3 or 4 in the group stage in limited minutes. He's an exciting player to watch, at least with Ghana, Partey, a few of these other guys, Amarte, Leicester, IU. Like, they have some Prem players, but I think South Korea, it all comes down to how fit is Son, right?
Yeah.
They have Kim. Napoli, again, was linked with a move to a few other big teams. Hwang, who plays for Wolves. So, I mean, similar story to Ghana with South Korea and a few other teams we discussed. Not the deepest, sort of top heavy. But if you're going to play in a World Cup with Son on your left wing, in my opinion, he's one of my favorite players in the Prem. Just the way he plays, so direct, left, right foot, outside the box, take you on one-on-one. You give him the ball anywhere. Tied for the Golden Boot last year in the Premier League as well. With Kane on your team, maybe that's a product of him giving you the ball. Maybe it's, whatever it is. But if he's fit, they're a dark horse. And for the, Nuggets, you're talking about Portugal and this Ronaldo saga. And is it going to, what sort of effect is it going to have on the team? If there is one to get through, whether it be Ghana or South Korea, if Son is fit, if he's playing with one of these little masks, protect his eye socket, I think it would be South Korea over Ghana. I would have them third. I'm high on Portugal. I have them winning the group, but I would not be surprised if Uruguay, pits them.
Portugal. You have Portugal over Uruguay to win the group.
Yeah, and I think what that does for Uruguay later on is I think it takes the pressure off. And I'll give you the reasoning behind this. I think Uruguay-Portugal sort of talks up. I'm probably going to take the draw in that game, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
And then where all lies, I think Uruguay might beat a Ghana, 2-0, 1-0, keep the ball, sort of see out a game professionally. Whereas Portugal can easily beat, a South Korea or a Ghana 4-5-1. Sure. So I think that goal differential with a draw would nudge them off the top spot, but
when do they play in that group? I feel like that's important. If it's last.
Yeah, I have Portugal, South Korea as the big game in that group, because I think that Uruguay will be so strong. They will be so accomplished that I see Portugal, South Korea fighting for second in that environment.
What are the DJS? Can you bring it up, the odds to get out of the group for some of these smaller teams?
Yeah, so it's a good point. I have Uruguay over 4.5 points.
Hit your share screen. And Jiggle, bring it up. We can all see it.
All right. Well, I've got a few other things on this that I don't want to share this.
That's a legal screen. Don't show that.
But I've got Uruguay over 4.5 points. That's at minus 150, or was when I took this a few days ago, or whenever this was.
These are your bets. Oh, yeah.
these are my personal bets. So I love Uruguay for the similar reasons. I think 4.5 is a good line. I actually also have Uruguay stage elimination quarterfinals. So I'm high on both Portugal and Uruguay. I think we'll see how it shakes up.
Have you done these specific out bets before?
No.
Like in other World Cups?
No.
It just seems.
I
don't know. My initial thought is somebody who hasn't really bet on soccer.
Right.
It's just like, man, it's so specific.
Well, I'll give you this. So I think one, the teams I'm betting on for a specific, stage of elimination bet, if you will, I'm very confident in them to either, make.
You're mapping their roads, yeah.
One or two, yeah. So I'm mapping roads, and I think more so what it does. Right. Well, yeah, it's wash off the bat, but I think more so is if you're getting a bet like Uruguay quarters, right? You're getting it at 5 plus 525. That's a great hedge opportunity in the last 16. So they get out the group. You hedge maybe yourself down to like a plus 400 line.
See, that line makes a lot more sense to me, but your plus 240 line earlier, I was like, man, I feel like just so much has to happen just right for that to work. Plus 525 makes a lot more sense.
Right. So
you've proven yourself to be a much better than I am, so I don't want to step on your toes at all. I just my initial thought to that plus 240 quarterfinals loss is just oh man, it just has to happen.
And if
just right.
A few of these are niche bets, right? And I think the Dutch, the Dutch quarterfinals, I think it's fairly certain they'll see Argentina, and if they do in that game, they're probably going to be a plus. I don't know. Argentina will be a big favorite. So if you want to hedge down on, win of Netherlands, you're also getting like a plus 300 line. So you're essentially wiping yourself clean with a guaranteed profit. If you want to be, a little more risk averse, of course, bet at your own risk. I will give that little caveat there. But Uruguay over 4.5 points. One bet I didn't get a chance to say, but now that I'm looking at it here, Spain under 6.5 at minus 130 points in the group stage. So they're expecting a draw against Germany, and then
2 wins, or no, 2 wins and a draw. Okay, yeah.
2 wins, and then that Germany game likely draw. But I figure they drop points, and I wouldn't be surprised if Germany also beats Spain. Yeah. So that's one I'm pretty big on.
Are you able to buy points in these things, or
no? I mean, you can't. I think the lines would just skew so much, and at that point, if you're looking to buy points, you're better off just betting on a per game basis, right? Because I think these lines, some of them are good value in betting on a team to advance, and then you can maybe find, a slightly more advantageous line on an over under points, which is sort of where I went through. But I like Portugal. Interestingly enough, over 6.5 points is plus money. I'm not throwing a lot on that. I'm throwing just a little sprinkle, but that's
a big bet.
Essentially betting on a Portugal winner draw, and then we'll see how Son is, but at plus money, I think it's good value. Again, with some of these, you're looking for value. You're not looking for.
They play Uruguay second match, right? Isn't that what we said? Because you could,
Uruguay, yes,
you could do that, right? They win the first one. I don't know. Do you sprinkle a little on Uruguay money line? And
the only thing I don't like with Portugal in this group is they play South Korea last, which you'd expect Son to be maybe not even care, but I think Son would have something to play for in that game. I would assume Portugal would as well. I would expect they would beat Ghana and get likely a point. Again, I'm betting on the draw in that game against Uruguay. But Son is going to be the most fit, and this will be if he's going to have a coming out party in the World Cup, it's going to be against Portugal 1, and then 2, it's going to be after a week or two more, a couple games under his belt, a little more training. So we'll see. So where do you guys see it? Chicken,
let's wrap this up. Yeah.
You got Uruguay 1?
Yeah. So I see Uruguay winning that group. I think I'm so tall. I'm not going near Portugal. I'm not going near that at all. I think they can pull it out and get through this group in some way. I just think that South Korea could be a little bit more regimented and perform in a way that will get them out of this group, pending a Portuguese implosion. But I agree with you. The Portuguese team is so strong. They have so much potential. Do they do they forego the talisman if he's not performing? That's where I want to see this go. But yeah, Uruguay all day on this one.
You should take a cheeky bet on Portugal not to get out the group, because you probably get some good lines on that.
Is the potential you think that they don't start Ronaldo or they pull him?
I think they do start him. I don't think that you can't not start him. I just think that I see an issue coming where if they fail or if they stall, not that he could be the problem, but I just think the rest of the team is so accomplished and what he has in the background, what he has going on with the way he is. I mean, you guys probably saw him when they won the Euros. He's on the sideline coaching and overreaching from the coach on the sideline, and he's like pointing to players and he's telling them what to do. And for me as a coach, I'm telling that guy to sit the fuck down and go away. Like, you don't do that. But it was still a way to make it about him. And that, I think, is going to be an issue for this Portuguese team.
Emperor G just sent me a message, said, listen to Nuggets. He certainly knows how to articulate soccer extremely well. Would love to see him more active in the Discord, especially the football channel.
Yeah, buddy. I'll be there. I need to be there. I haven't been there enough.
Oh, good question. That's a good question.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that is the problem, that when you have a talisman like Ronaldo on the field, he's the guy that you look to give it to all the time. And I think that it compounds with the creativity that they have of the players around him. You just look at the guys like Joao Felix, who could likely sit in terms of Ronaldo playing ahead of him. So then you lose that creativity that he has to offer. And there's no doubt that Ronaldo is incredible. But then the players around him, Bruno Fernandes looks so much more alive when he plays for United when Ronaldo isn't on the field. But when he's on the field, it seems like Bruno Fernandes is giving the ball to his big brother. And that's how it feels like when you watch them play. And anytime when I was on the field, it's get the ball to Ronaldo. And you never know what's gonna come after that. So this is a really interesting watch. And this is something that I can't wait to see start this World Cup and just see how this works out. DJS, I know you're strong on Ronaldo here. You see any of this potential issue that I'm seeing, or am I making this up in my own head?
No, I think I see it. I absolutely do. What I always come back to, and I've been lucky enough not to play in a locker room, right? Where I've had this sort of egomaniac who, like you are saying at the Euro 2016 final, is sitting there with ice on his knee, has been subbed out of a final, that he's probably at the biggest level, probably at this point, maybe outside of, you could say, his first Champions League, arguably the biggest game of his career, comes off, 25, 30 minutes in, is jumping up, is running around. It's a 0-0 game against France. And again, it's about himself. I just always come back to talent. And I think in some instances in sport, whether it's coaching, whether it's, look at the Lakers right now, right? Being in California, like sometimes there's not a fit. But I think talent, oftentimes, especially in a World Cup, you're playing 7 games, through group stage, and then you run to the final. It can be problematic.
He's a big fan of Wales, which is a big problem in our house.
I'm willing to look past that for Ronaldo's sake.
Yeah,
I do think Joao Felix he's struggled to get into that Atletico Madrid team at times. I think I would also lean Jota. I know he's also coming back from injury. I just think there's too many question marks with a few of the other guys on the like Jota and Felix. If one of them was, let's say with Jota specifically in the form he was in last year, maybe Ronaldo isn't a shoot-in, and maybe it's a bigger topic of discussion, and maybe there are conversations to be had in the Portugal camp where he's coming, and this Piers Morgan interview is coming out. Like, it all doesn't make sense. It's about him again. I'm going to look past it. I have your Portugal winning the group, Uruguay, both doing well. I guess I'll tell you how confident I am. Portugal potentially upset against Serbia. That's one I'm looking out for. If that's the last 16. But then I have Portugal beating Spain. in the round after that, because I think Germany wins the group. And then I think Spain, Belgium is a toss-up, but I think Portugal beats both those teams on paper. Portugal could potentially be playing like a Spanish team, maybe a both teams I'm not high on. We talked about those teams at length. They could be easier run to Portugal or to England. Excuse me.
Justin, I got another answer for you here.
In the semis.
I got a special delivery here for chicken nuggets. Who asked the question why we're not drinking DJ Haze? So I had my wife run next door where Chicken Nuggets lives and bring over a DJ Haze.
Hey.
Sorry, DJS. That's a farther walk.
DJS, you got to move in next door, mate. I'll let you know when the house comes for sale.
Actually, my neighbor on the other side is 104 years old, so any day now.
Jesus.
She walks the neighborhood every day.
It's phenomenal, by the way.
It's a really nice beer.
Excellent hazy. Yeah.
Fantastic.
DJS, have you had this stuff?
Yeah. Should I go grab one? I got one downstairs.
Oh, yeah, you should.
All right, I'll be back. Do you guys want to tee us up with some bold predictions or something?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we should do kind of a recap on the actual bets. I think that's probably what the people want to see the most is the takeaway best bets. So
while we get that, let me ask you, Jungle, quick fire. Golden Boot. Who wins the Golden Boot? Golden Boot is most goals.
I know what it is, motherfucker. God. De Bruyne.
De Bruyne. Okay. I'm going to write these down so I remember this. Golden Glove.
Pass.
Golden Ball.
I'm about with my heart here, as one does. You're gonna like this. Sterling.
Fuck hell. I don't know if Sterling gets on the field. He guarantees to get on the field. Do you believe that conversation was almost 2 hours ago?
Honestly, and granted, you know more than I do, but I feel like he's certainly your most electric player.
Where does the United States finish? Jungle, where do they finish?
Oh,
cheers, lads.
I think they can come out of the group. They've done it before. You know, I think the Wales England might come to blows. I mean, Iran's sneaky. I think US can get out of the group. And then who knows? Let's say they're CC coming out of the group. Who might they face?
DJS, what do you have as a route for them? Yeah, potentially Netherlands as a group winner.
That's their group in the last 16. I placed a bet on USA to get knocked out in the last 16 at plus 175.
So we played the Netherlands.
That's a good bet. I like that.
I think in 2014, and Tim Howard had or is it Netherlands or Belgium? I don't remember, but Tim Howard had
Belgium, I think,
like 7 unbelievable saves in one match, where like each one was highlight worthy, and we just could not even get the ball past midfield. It was just all Tim Howard all the time. They eventually scored, and it was over.
Yeah, that was the Timmy game.
But yeah.
Okay, I'll run through mine. I have them written out here, so I'm gonna go winner Brazil.
What are the odds on that?
It's like 3.5, 4 to 1.
Yeah. You think that's a worthwhile bet?
I think money's better served on elsewhere. I think Brazil and Argentina, whoever gets out of that side is going to win it. I'm not too high on France, given their defense.
The Argentina odds better?
It was 10 to 1, but dropped. So I'm going to go Brazil to win. I'm going to go Golden Boot, Richarlison, given they're going to play some of the most games.
If that comes through, oh my goodness.
I think it's safer. Again, I have like a cheeky little bet on Ronaldo and Kane. I think for obvious reasons, good value there. Young player, Musiala. I think Musiala is with that Germany team. If he gets the nod and is starting, if not, then Jude Bellingham,
young player
of the tournament.
Oh, that's a thing, huh?
If Brazil are also winning a tournament, the golden ball has got to go to, you would assume, Neymar. So I think these are all sort of built off the concept that Brazil is winning.
Brazil, yeah.
Neymar, Richarlison. The Richarlison one's obviously a plus 3,000, so it's a bit of a long shot, but we want a couple of those in there. That's my James Rodriguez pick from the past. And then what else is there? Golden Glove. I'm going to go to Martinez, Argentina. Yeah. I think if they get into a shootout at some point, he's good at pens that could nudge it in his direction. With a sneaky also, Pickford is lights out for England, and I've got to put my Everton lad in there.
I watched Jordan Pickford warm up in the England game in the World Cup. We watched him play. It was Costa Rica, and he was fucking phenomenal. Like they call him Happy Hardcore Pickford, and he's just banging his head. And he receives the ball on his right, and he just hits a dime to right where the halfway line intersects with the sideline. And then he receives the ball from the left and hits the same ball. And it's pinpoint consistently. For Everton, he's a fucking clown. But get him in an England shirt.
That's the media. He saved us last year. We would have been relegated without him. But I know we're sort of pushing time on the stream. So I'll just flip through, some bets that I like too. Obviously, to win the tournament, you can get Argentina to win with Messi golden ball at around 24 to 26 to 1 together. If Argentina is going to win, Messi will get the golden ball. Yeah. I like Uruguay over 4.5 group stage points, Germany under 6.5 group stage points, Serbia over 3.5 group stage points, Qatar under 2.5 group stage points. To win their group, Germany. I also have Germany over.
Hold on, DJS, can you back up a little bit? I'm trying to write these down so we can.
Yeah, maybe we could clip. Yeah, I'll go through them again a little slower. So we have, and maybe we can get Jigga to clip this, and it'll sort of be tied as one. But Uruguay over 4.5 group stage points, minus 150. Spain under 6.5 group stage points, minus 130. Serbia over 3.5, minus 140. I love that bet. That'll be a big unit play. Qatar under 2.5 at minus 135 group stage points. Let's see. Golden ball. I have Richarlison at 30 to 1. Again, lines differ a lot there. I also have a cheeky little bet. Nothing crazy. Ronaldo 15 to 1. And Harry Kane 12 to 1. Yeah.
What are the odds on him Germany to another win? Interview?
Well, I mean, Chris Morgan is such a notorious international cunt. You have to imagine he's going to bring out the worst in somebody.
Yeah. We're going to have to blur that out in the middle of the bets for the public. But Group E, Germany, even money to win, minus 110. USA, save elimination, last 16. Netherlands, stage elimination.
Their first match?
Germany to win the group over Spain is even money. You have Uruguay, stage elimination quarterfinals at plus 525. I like that. Argentina, stage elimination semis, plus 375 against Germany. There's probably a nice hedge in that game as well. Guarantee yourself some money if they can get there. I'm confident they will. The Dutch to lose to Argentina likely plus 240 in the quarters. And I think that pretty much caps up all my picks. And then as far as to win the tournament.
It's important to note the Dutch losing in the quarterfinals to anyone is the bet, right?
Right. But it's likely unless they somehow don't win a group in Group A with Senegal missing Mane. That was, I think, what switched that in my mind. I had Senegal as
if anybody's listening, it's just Dutch to lose in the quarters.
Correct.
Doesn't matter who they're playing. Right.
So the expectation is 1, they'll win the group, and then 2, they'll have the runner-up of the England group. Of course, if England, for whatever reason, slip up and are second in that group, then it's a more difficult game. But under that
that's a disgusting game. Yeah. Don't even talk about that.
But Senegal against, or I guess, the England group coming through. So you have Wales, USA against the Dutch. I would assume the Dutch should be able to make that happen. And then Argentina, I think, just powers through them. And I think at 240 for that to happen is good value. But that's sort of my recap of where I'm betting. Musiala as well, young player, is 6-1, I think. Maybe even better. I haven't looked at that in a while, but
are you gonna
some good value
bet on
picks.
Tomorrow's match at all?
Probably not. I think emotions will be high if I did. Maybe like a Ecuador pick'em. I think it was like -150, but it's tough to bet against the host country losing the first game with, the whole opening ceremony and whatnot. But that's where I fall. We'll see. We've been making a lot of money in the KOD Discord, so we'll be sending some daily picks in there as well.
Give us a few bets from Monday's games, though. Some intros.
Monday's games.
Somewhere people can cash out quick.
Let's see. So that's what, the 21st?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's tough. I had Senegal +1 as a big unit play. USA Wales draws +205. I hate betting against draws, but I think in a World Cup first game, neither team can lose that or else they're up against it. I think that's going to be a cagey. If you can parlay same game, I would go probably draw and like under. I think 0-0 or 1-1. I don't see many goals in that. Argentina, not much value against Saudi Arabia the following day. And if we're just looking at Monday's slate, England, Iran as well, -280. Maybe you take a first half England if you assume they're going to start early. But the only thing I'll be taking is probably England, Wales, +205.
Okay. What's your betting line on US Wales? And then we'll sign off.
Me? Draw, probably like 1.5 units +205 USA Wales. That's the bet for me.
2 draw.
Yeah. If you can get like an under, like a 1-1 or a 0-0.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a good preview show, boys. We're gonna do some more action as we get further in the tournament. We're not exactly sure when. Maybe end of the group stage, mid group stage. We'll be here before every round, though. I'm at Junglegoat on Twitter.
At Chickinnuggets.
DJS Holdings. Pop into the Knights Discord. We got picks coming. We're up a lot of units on Prem, Champs League, Europa League. So we'll be making money.
Sorry, finish.
No, that's it. We'll be making money.
At Biggin, send me a DM, Biggin.
All right, lads. Tomorrow we start.
Christmas morning.
Let's get a good World Cup, huh? Every 4 years.